trigger happy and I give less than a fuck. Love me or hate me, I'ma show enough, rip shit up. It's Mr. Nothing, nice on a mic stand. Mic in the left and the zest in my right hand. I took a puff, had enough now, hold up. If that was Indo, niggas getting rolled up.
What's going on, folks? This is Acid Roots. I'm going to review Saucy Santana's breakout project called I'm a Celebrity, which dropped in early 2020. So this is basically his initial project. He actually dropped an EP before this in late 2019, but this is the one with like two of his biggest hits on here. Initially, I thought that this was a free mixtape and would have been available for download on DatPiff, but really, this is basically, it's on at least streaming services. I don't know if it has a CD format for it, but I would definitely say it has at least two hits on here that were some of his breakout songs, like Walk 'Em Like a Dog and Material Girl, and then it has another single on here. But basically a little bit of backdrop about Saucy Santana. He's an LGBT artist, LGBT artist that was a makeup artist for city girls, and he kind of started making a name for himself throughout that kind of vibe, kind of the background type stuff in Florida, and just knowing the right people and that type stuff. And eventually he put out the song Walk 'Em Like a Dog, which hit off pretty well, and then he followed it up with Material Girl and wound up putting out this project, which is called I'm a Celebrity. And the concept, as far as the first project that you basically have calling it I'm a Celebrity, basically showcases that he blew up pretty fast. And it's just kind of, he was also on Love and Hip Hop Miami, which is a television show on VH1. So he was in some of the right places at the right time. But I'm going to go ahead and say that this project for me is not going to get a really high score. I mean, there are definitely some bops on here. I do feel like it has the attempt and at least like the intention of kind of being like high place club bops and strip club bops and that type stuff. It has a very outgoing feel, which I figure was to be expected, because I feel like this is kind of like a side piece to the City Girls kit. Like, if you are a fan of like the music that the City Girls make and that type stuff, I really feel like this is like, like I said, this is a companion piece to that type stuff. It's just like a lesser version of that. Not to say lesser like it's inferior, but just kind of where it's not quite as distinct and quite as pungent. And I think that's kind of the concept about it. But the problem with it is the mood that I've noticed on this project is I feel like Saucy Santana, if the City Girls talk about money and hating broke niggas to like an nth degree, I feel like Saucy Santana's mood towards this concept is like triple nth degree, which should let you know is basically anything the City Girls kind of have talked about on some of their albums, you can multiply it with Saucy Santana times 3. And that's basically the concept of what this album is as a whole. It just has a lot of tropes on this project that kind of are similar to what the City Girls think, which is basically, just peer into the mind of a bougie woman in her convertible or her whip or something like that, cruising out, pissed off at her boyfriend on like a Thursday or Friday night, and goes to the club and just feels like kind of being ornery all night. And that's what you get for like the concept of this album. Just a bunch of ornery cuts about hating people who don't quite match their expensive taste, and having some time and kind of having a fun time on the weekend and kind of being a tease at that. And that's the concept of what you get on this project. The problem with it is apart from the last song on this album that is called You Can't Kill Me, the theme of this album is pretty central, which is just basically, I want money. If you have it, we'll spend time. And that's the whole concept the whole way through. Out of basically 7 or 8 out of 9 songs convey this pretty quickly. And you can tell this by the titles. I'll list some of them. Gold Digger, which is Saucy Santana basically saying in the chorus, I am a gold digger. Trap Girl, which he is just wanting to find some trap dudes with a lot of money. Blue Bands, which implies he wants a lot of money. Blue Bands is better than regular bands. Material Girl, which means I have expensive taste. Get That Bag. You get the idea here. Out of Time, which is saying you're out of time if you don't have the right funds. So yeah, I mean, 2/3 of this project just deal with the concept of saying money is the primary thing that I am concerned with at this point. And the unfortunate thing about it is With City Girls, they at least divvy up and have some extra topics to talk about. I noticed, at least on their Girl Code album, that they had other joints that they could spruce it up a little bit, like the song that they did with Cardi B called Twerk. You know, there was no song like that from Saucy Santana on here. And like other songs like Act Up, which kind of is kind of like a dramatic kind of fight song, almost kind of like drama song that you would expect. This sort of stuff that Lil Jon would do. So there's nothing like that. It's just purely money. I mean, these are at least in like dance club affairs where this is mainly meant for like a dance club, strip club, nightclub, but it's really just a girls' night out kind of album. It really does not have it from like the guy's angle. Most of the time, the guy is kind of seen as like the problem in the situation, but it is kind of underneath the impression that it's mostly just a girls' night out, and it kind of deals with like various bops that can go along with that sort of stuff. And I think it's fun within that context to a certain degree. If you can kind of put on the back burner the central theme of just the overt kind of like mindset about money, it's palpable. And that's kind of the concept as far as saying that that's what they're talking about in the lyrics, but it is good. I mean, like, I'll go ahead and talk about like the 3 songs out of 9 that I enjoy. So the 3 songs I recommend to you. Well, actually, I'll list the singles. We'll talk about the singles just to kind of get into that. So, like, the first single is "Walk 'Em Like a Dog," which, I mean, all 3 of these singles are club bops and can be played outgoing. I mean, Saucy Santana does a great job of at least having this outgoing girls' night out vibe that I kind of described, but I really felt like the energy on "Walk 'Em Like a Dog," I think because this was his initial song that he did, it just needed work, but it just didn't quite carry the energy enough to really have much of a groove to really get into. It's not really a good dance to song or any sort of kind of vibe that really has any sort of recreation to it. It's just kind of a little bit dramatic in there, but I kind of feel like not nearly as good as Material Girl, and I feel like even You Can't Kill Me has a better energy about it. But yeah, so Material Girl is really good. I mean, this is definitely a song I feel like can be played in a strip club. On Spotify, it showcased that this was the most popular song from the project, and I agree. Definitely the best beat on this whole project. And see tons of like, you know, bougie and kind of ornery and just overall kind of women who are kind of stunting for the night listening to this song, twerking, all that sort of stuff. It's a twerk ready song, easy song to kind of have when it's women's time for the dancing and that type stuff and those sorts of moments. It's interesting enough, I would have to say. It's just an overall good bop of a club song, and it's fitting for a night out. I mean, it's the mood is kind of more permeable this time around, just because it's just an overall, it has some good vibes about it. I definitely like the beat on there. You Can't Kill Me. This is kind of a dramatic song. This kind of reminded me of something that Lil Jon would do, where he would kind of make a club song, but it wasn't necessarily to dance to. It's kind of like it has a little tinge of drama in there, like "Fuck you, you can't kill me." Because Saucy Santana did kind of get shot. He could have actually been killed when he got shot. So he made a song about that, kind of saying like, "You can't kill me." It's just one of those songs that you kind of say when you're in an argument with someone. You're like, "Fuck this bitch," or "Fuck this person. I'm done." The drama that goes on. It's kind of a bickering song, but I definitely like the energy just because it's kind of like a miniature crunk song almost. Just kind of within that bop. I like the energy of it. I mean, it's just easy to kind of gossip and have that sort of stuff at a club and that sort of stuff. So it works. Those are the 3 singles. But then just to kind of say, like, yeah, I'll go ahead and talk about this. So basically, the 3 songs out of 9 I enjoyed were Material Girl, You Can't Kill Me, and Trap Girl. I already talked about Material Girl and You Can't Kill Me, but Trap Girl really had like this thumping bass on the song. I mean, I appreciated that overall one. It's the first song that you hear on here, and like I said, the tropes kind of get tiresome on this project, but I still appreciate it enough to where it can be overridden just because of how catchy the song kind of is. I feel like this is definitely a good kind of placement for just overall going out and kind of letting the women take over and just kind of vibing to it and hearing some good kind of strip club and dance club kind of beats. Now, there's really no song that just full blown augments there's really no song that full blown augments just the concept of a Friday night. I mean, for the most part, the concept about it is it has this context where the night isn't won yet. It's very much in the concept of like, hey, you still got work to do, as opposed to like, we're just having fun and vibing and connecting and that sort of stuff. And that's kind of the concept where it seems like this is kind of the initial kind of sequencing of a lot of this. But I do kind of, like I said, this is a very ornery album. I do feel like it's a very ornery in its mood and texture and that type stuff. There's not like a lot of moments that just kind of have like a different mood as far as like, just going out and having a mixture, Saucy Santana, the City Girls, a couple dudes smoking, drinking, that type of stuff. There's no drinking song, no smoking song, no dancing song, no twerking song, no real car song, cruising, none of that. It just, I mean, there are songs for the club, but for the most part, like I said, it's just this girls' night out kind of vibe and just kind of like a stubborn and ornery kind of mood. So that's what you have to kind of understand. As if you're pissed off for whatever reason. I described that as far as it was. But like me liking 3 out of 9 songs, I'm going to score this album a 3 out of 10. I feel like it's good, but the central mood the whole way through is kind of off-putting, just because the attitude is just kind of a little bit kind of bruised more than it needed to be. So that's kind of the context there. I would have liked some moments that could have had like more, showcase of like a night out to kind of learn about Saucy Santana's personality, to kind of see some different things besides just money. Seems like that's the only thing that's really about anything. It's just kind of very one dimensional. And I think that's kind of the thing. There needed to be some more moments on there. At least on Material Girl, you kind of learn some of the fashions that he's into and that type stuff. But it's just kind of, that's the concept that, and another complaint that I'm going to add in real quick is just to say that some of these choruses could have been better. Like, that's a lot of the reasons why some of these songs I didn't appreciate on here. Like, I feel like Gold Digger could have had, like, the plotting kind of production kind of made it like it's kind of like a saucy kind of song and a spicy kind of song. But I felt like some of these choruses, Blue Bands, Gold Digger, Out of Time, some of these could have really had better put together, because it just felt like there's just a lot of sass and not enough substance to really back up like the vibes and how some of this worked. But some of these beats could have been better. I feel like You Can't Kill Me had one of the best, but definitely the best beat period on this project is Material Girl. But Trap Girl's a pretty good thumper, so that's definitely the thing. But I'm losing track of the point I was trying to make. But yeah, I would have to say like the mood behind this just needed kind of more substance to kind of convey, because like with any typical woman who is that degree of bougie and that degree of just like spoiled and caviar and that type stuff, they have to have something about their personality that's kind of worth the hunt. And that I just am not seeing enough substance as to portray this being worth the hunt and that type stuff. So there's just not really any other topics beyond just like, I want money and you'll get my time if you have it. And that's the mood that's pretty central, and it just kind of is off-putting if that is not your primary also mood. So that's kind of the thing. So 3 out of 10. The social score I will give a 5 out of 10, just because it did have some decent singles, and the singles actually do hit pretty well. They're pretty solid. And this is definitely a very social album. I do feel like there's a number. I think some women that are kind of feeling this album more, you have to realize that over 2/3 of this project is about going out. So you'd probably be able to find more. It's definitely for a night out, but the mood is just so central that if you're not in kind of like a if you're not kind of in like a niggas ain't shit or dudes ain't shit kind of vibe, it's not quite as much of a connection, I would have to say. But yeah, in terms of the future, I mean, Saucy Santana has dropped numerous projects. projects. He actually dropped an album in late 2021, and he's dropped a single with Lotto called Booty, and he's been appearing on television and that type of stuff. So it looks like he's got some new stuff on the way. It's just going to be kind of interesting to kind of see what happens with that. But for what it is, I do feel like this project, is, I don't feel like it's a classic, but it does have the right social pressure that I think it's a good outing in like context depending upon how you digest it. But I do feel like the mood and kind of like the choruses definitely need work.